We want to take this time to say good evening and welcome to our first 2024 discuss on the Liberian view. The topic today actually is it has to do with the foundational principles for a healthy system in Liberia, and we're going to emphasize on the principles that can help us build Liberia, build a better system that can work for Liberia, and that will actually allow our country, Liberia, to be much better, safer, and more prosperous. So today we have on board our speakers. We had Dr. Caroline Davis. We had Reverend Dr. Edwin J. Lloyd, and we have Reverend Dr. Rudolph Brople. And we have from Will, Belgium, we have Almazi Miss Jallo, and she's from Belgium. She took her time to join us. I know it's so late in Belgium, but she's here to also add her voice for us to see how this new administration uh, can can make sure that we live a better Liberia and we think a better Liberia, as the current president stated, think, live, and work Liberia. So we're here today to make sure to bring to light these hot topics, discussion that is most needed. And we have our colleagues, our friends in Liberia listening. We want to apologize because we had a little technical difficulties when it comes to actually the voice and the audio was not working. But at least we thank God we're here. We're going to make sure that at least we make use of the time that we have so that those who are listening, especially in Liberia, that we'll be able to at least address some of your questions. Having said that, we're going to switch quickly to Miss Jallo. We ask you to kindly just introduce yourself and to just at least make reference as part of the discussion some of the foundational principles that you think that will build a healthy system in Liberia. So, Ms. Jallo, you can introduce yourself, and the floor is yours, and you can just dive strictly in the topics. As we stated, we all have like 3 minutes to discuss, and then we will go through questions. The floor is yours, Ms. Jallo.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Lucy. It's an honor to be part of your show and to be part of the panelists today. Um, Thanks to everyone. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining. Um, I think that one of the fundamental way that we can move towards a better Liberia is for Liberians to change their minds and their attitudes, and also the culture of deception and lies and dishonesty need to be getting rid of, totally eradicated. Liberians should learn to be honest. Liberians should learn to be brave and stop being cowards, stop being waiting for people to be their hero instead of standing up and holding their government feet to fire and telling them this is what we want, this is why we put you there, because we deserve better and we want better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We know questions will come in, and then you can chime in from there. We want to say thank you for your patience. We'll go quickly to our own Reverend Dr. Rudolph Brople to give his own presentation when it comes to the topic. Dr. Brople, the floor is yours. Okay, let me check and see what is going on. Okay, as we await for Dr. Brople, we'll just give the floor to Reverend Dr. Edwin J. Lloyd. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Brople is on. Dr. Brople, the floor is yours. I apologize.
Thank you, Lucy, and greetings to my colleague panelists, Dr. Lloyd and Ms. Jallo. Good to see you both. Greetings from across the river in um, Gaya Town, Magibi. So, So I offered 5 principles that I believe form the foundation for a healthy system. I'm sure we've been paying attention to the challenges of the nomination process, the um, um, the challenges that we were having with getting the names in, getting people cleared, contestation, protesting, all these different things. But the president picks who the president wants to serve. So once that's done, then now we have to create some kind of system so that everybody function with similar expectation. And that's where this whole thing came from. Actually, it's a pentagonal 5 principles that form the foundation of a system from which we can develop governing philosophy, which means all of the people who are getting appointed to positions need to affirm, embrace these particular principles as a modus operandi, the way they're going to do business. Okay. And as we're speaking, I'm trying to get on the president's calendar now so he and I can have a conversation. I want to present this to him in person and have a conversation. And I'm asking him to please make this, the foundation of a government philosophy. So you create a system where everybody is expected to move to these particular principles. That's the vetting that will ensure a particular performance. And the 5 principles, I laid them out in one of my earlier videos. Um, but I'll just, if the chair will give me a second, I'll just quickly run them through here. The first is modesty, and that is everybody who leads and serves now need to understand that we have to be frugal because we are very poor and we're in a deep pit of poverty. It's real in Liberia. The second is integrity. Integrity. Everything we do should be open, done with transparency, because integrity matters. And we're seeing all kinds of issues arising from the confirmation process. The third is accountability. Every public servant is accountable to the people. And so declaring your asset, auditing, all of those things should be commonplace in the new system. Every leader should subscribe to that. The fourth is sacrifice. More than ever before, I think our country needs people who are willing to make some sacrifices. The government is not a place where you come to make yourself. The government is a place where you come to make some sacrifices at this time so you serve people. And of course, the last one is service. Service. Government needs to serve people. And I'm sure you've been paying attention. And if you're like me, I have been really shocked at how many government functionaries we have. Now, I don't have the data, I've not done the research, but I can guess that we probably have the largest government per capita in all of Africa, meaning we got more government in person. And if you've been paying attention to the appointments, all these agencies and authorities and boards and commission, all of these things, we have so much government. And I personally thought the president would have used that as an opportunity for reset. In other words, could be the beginning of downsizing and right sizing. But instead, we see that all of these positions are being filled. And you don't have to be here to know that a lot of these agencies and authorities are not functioning. They're not functioning at all. You don't feel the impact. They don't do anything. So service has to be something that every public servant in Liberia need to subscribe to. Serve the people. Let your agency have goals. Share them with the public. So 12 months later, we can hold you accountable. And so what do you do over the last 12 months as you attempted to serve people? So, Madam Host, that's the foundation. Those 5 principles can form a good, healthy system, and from there come a governing philosophy, and they can shape our practices in public service.
Yes, we want to take this time to say thank you. We know a lot of questions have come in. We did share this particular discuss with others in Liberia. And we've heard our own Reverend Dr. Buble have stated clearly that on the five principles that he spoke on: accountability, sacrifice, and service, and the other two, the need to serve your country and be accountable, and also we being the largest, Liberia being the largest employer of, I mean, the largest employer of of her nationals, more than other countries, compared to other countries that are really, really, really doing well. We have a lot of agencies that are now functioning, but we have ministers, we have directors for these agencies. And I'm glad that Dr. Brooklet stated he's even looking, finding a way, trying to make appointments so that he can see the president to really, really discuss these kind of issues, because they're very important. So having said that, we're going to move quickly to our own Dr. Caroline Davis, who will also give her own perspective on the system, the fundamental, foundational principles that is needed for a healthy system in Liberia. So, Dr. Caroline Davis, we want to say thank you for your patience, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you so much. I agree with everything my brother said. Um, but also, I wrote a few things down. I said, when I consider the fundamental principle for a healthy and a safe nation, I think of it from a holistic perspective. That means spirit, soul, and body. A healthy and safe nation must consider and respect the rights of its citizens, provide opportunities for all its citizens to thrive, and have a justice system that is swift and works for all. I wish I could say a system void of corruption, because there is no such nation, right? However, for a nation to be healthy and safe, corruption must be dealt with immediately when when it is exposed, and it shouldn't matter who is involved. All citizens must abide by the rules of the land. So that's just my intro about looking at the fundamental principle of a healthy and safe system in the country.
Okay, we want to say thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for your patience and for your intro. As we've all heard, we hope that our listeners will hear today that we have other perspective when it comes to a system that will heal Liberia, that will work for Liberia and provide safety, and make Liberia one of the most prosperous nations in Africa and also on the earth. And Dr. Davis just laid out that it must be a people or nation with the spirit and soul and body ready to serve, and also the rights of all its citizens, all the rights, meaning the rights for all. What is for someone that is sweeping is also for the minister or the speaker, and also justice system uh, for all, and a system that will be able to work for all Liberians. And we know that there's no, according to according to one of Dr. Davis, we know that there's no nation that is void of corruption, or at least finding a way to minimize it. So that's a food for thought for those who are listening, and we are hoping that Dr. Brookler will have the opportunity to really, really sit with the president and giving us a listening ear, because to be a good leader, you must be a leader that want to listen not only those who voted for you or those that are in your court, but also those who are also Liberians and they have the interest of Liberia at heart. So having said that, we're going to go quickly to our own Reverend Dr. J. Edwin Lloyd, who has been so patient today, and we want to say thank you so much. The floor is yours, Dr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to quickly dive in. I just want to say hi to those who are panelists here. Greetings to you. And I would just piggyback on them because they have said it all. But as we move forward in our discussion, the first thing I want to bring to light is that we have to understand what a system is. So a system is a set of interconnecting framework, or probably a set of principles or procedures and to which an organization is attached, and therefore this organizing interconnection of systems are geared towards producing results. So you have interconnecting systems working together to yield results. All right. And so basically, for Liberia, we have to understand that there are various systems that are needed in Liberia. But the previous speakers talked about basically the emphasis on the value systems that cause the other systems to strive. So you talk about trust, commitment, all those are value systems that are needed to be embedded in society, or the value systems that are cherished by citizens and leaders, so that the systems that are needed to run an economy or run the government as a whole will strive and yield results. And so basically, during this section, I will focus on the economic system in Liberia and the educational system, because those two are crucial for a striving nation. And I see that it is highly needed in our society today. If there's no system in Liberia, no matter what you may think, the systems there are not interconnected and they are not geared towards yielding results. So we discussed that further to go forth and be able to give some idea on how we can be able to give and be able to help our native land move forward for a better future.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Lloyd. If you are listening, we want to say thank you, and we're looking forward to your questions. I happen to have polled some questions um, that were in the chat, and we are hoping that you are listening now and you'll be able to ask your question. We are working towards making sure that not only will you put questions in the chat, but you'll be able to call in and ask your question. And we're looking forward to doing that in the month of March, hopefully. So we heard that Dr. Lloyd spoke about the various system, and he defined the system as a framework that is in place for any organization, including a government, that once the systems are in place, individuals, organization, foreign organization, even local organization can adhere to it, so that we can have a healthy Liberia. And those kind of value system should be cherished, because that's your country. And if we have foreign national have it doing business or working in Liberia, you should also, if we cherish our system that we put in place, our standard, foreign organization in Liberia will do the same. So having said that, I don't think I want to go through the questions, but I will also give an opportunity for another round of this discussion, maybe diving through the various principles that we have spoken about, that has been stated. So maybe we'll start also, we just go straight to Dr. Brople, that will maybe dive in detail when it comes to the various principles, or maybe one or two of the principles that he stated during his intro. So Dr. Brople, the floor is yours. So the thing is, what do we perceive from this government, from our past to now? The principles that you've stated during your intro, how do you think the current leadership can use those principles to benefit our country, Liberia? The floor is yours, Dr. Brople.
Thank you again, Lucy. So the most significant thing that needs to take place for socioeconomic growth and development is job creation and private sector expansion. To do that, you need resources. And if you look at the past budget from the outgoing government, the one that we have now, that was shown, um, whose tenure time will soon run out, 68.9% of that budget is for salaries and benefits. In other words, almost three-fourths of the nation's revenue goes to simply paying salaries, benefit, gasoline, cars, scratch card, those kinds of things. So when you have such a disproportionate amount of money going just for benefits, then you have only 25% for infrastructure, investment in the education sector, and those kinds of things. It makes it very difficult for the government to make the kind of sizable investment that it needs, right? So that we can dig ourselves out of the pit of poverty. So modesty says we are going to clamp down on big expenditure. So let me give you an example. So right now in Monrovia, even it was already bad, but it's getting worse. Even new appointees have escorts. New ministers have escorts. So what does that mean? That means you have a few cars that will escort you everywhere you go. You said, but that's not a big deal. Oh, it's a huge deal because now we are funding, right? Extra vehicles, we're gassing them, we're repairing them. Remember, they run every day.
Mhm.
That's less money for chalk, for the teachers in Bunkinama. That's less money for paracetamol, for JFK, and the whole culture of big shottism with everybody having an escort is completely non-productive. So it doesn't add anything. So if you're modest, you say we can spend the people's money that way. You follow me? So you come with that attitude. The president expects that. Here's another example. I rode the plane from Ghana to Liberia. Friend on the plane. The friend is a minister. We're talking in the airport. We get in the plane. The friend is in first class. And I said, friend, we're struggling as a nation. You ride in first class for an hour and 45 minutes. The friend said, well, dog, the government trip. I said, yeah, from here to Liberia, you can ride economy class, save the taxpayers some money so we can put it on public safety and have more police visible in Magibi County. So, with our modesty, we come
And
with heavy top government. And when you do it that way, you leave very little resources for other things. So that's just one part of it. The integrity part is almost self-explanatory. It's integrity. You must be open and must be transparent in your operations. So I think I want to pause and let my friends weigh in. But modesty is so critical, and if we come with big government, you would just be sapping up all of the poor people's money. Our tax dollars will be going the wrong place. There's another example. I was in Accra 2 weeks ago. The president of Ghana rides a convoy with six motorbikes and three cars. Six motorbikes and three cars. Please stand on the road and count how many cars we have in the president's convoy in Liberia, in the vice president's. So, a country like Ghana that is doing so well, a country that, quite frankly, we should be aspiring to be like or reach to where they are. They're modest. They're modest in their government operation. We are not. So if we're going to move at an appreciable pace, then we have to spend less of the taxpayers' money on things that really don't create jobs at all.
I hope we're
Modesty.
listening. Yeah. Thank you so much. And so we ask anyone on the platform to chime in because this is so important. We don't have money according to our budget. If you look at it, if we're spending about 65 to 70% of our budget on benefits and other incentive, and then less than 30% on infrastructure, now you see why we have the kind of rules we have. Now you see why people need to go to Ghana when they're sick, especially unless you can afford it. So we need to really, really take a critical look at that. And I'm hoping that Dr. Bropler will have the opportunity to meet with the president or those that make decisions. Because if you are a newly appointed minister and you have assigned a convoy, um, you have your staff. I'm sure you're paying those staff. And if we have to really downsize, and according to what Dr. Brooklyn stated, And living in Liberia, if you're a minister living that life compared to a president in Ghana that have motorbikes and only 3 convoy or president, and then we have our ministers having more than that, then that's a serious thing. So service is to serve your country. And modesty is very, very important, especially when it's not your money. So we need to really look at that. And a lot of questions coming in, but I would like for Dr. Lloyd to also weigh in, and we will ask Ms. Jallo to do the same, and Dr. Caroline Davis. So, Dr. Lloyd, the floor is yours to weigh in.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my thanks and appreciation to Dr. Brooklyn for very eloquently bringing up those points concerning some of the irregularities that are already occurring in Liberia, and the lack of systematic process in Liberia. You see, Liberia and the economic system in Liberia is struggling because of these kind of activities. In every economic system, you have to have a very organized way to distribute available resources and services. And the goods and services that goes across the geographic area of that nation should be organized, should be managed, and in a religious setting, we should be able to exercise good stewardship of the little that we have. And so basically, like Dr. Brooklyn was talking about, we have little revenue in Liberia. We have the funds we have to distribute the goods and services to make sure that the basic needs of societies are provided all with the meager resource that we have, financial resources that we have. We need to manage our wealth. All right. So if you have 10 cars in a convoy, you have several, and these lavishing form of life, and look at the cost that is needed. You have a government that cannot pay the employees on time. And so another thing I want to bring up quickly before give the rest of the panelists chance is that we have to understand what kind of economic system we have in Liberia. And the system we have is what we call the traditional economic system. And that is a very, it's an ancient system. Usually countries that are just emerging, they function on a traditional economic system, which depends basically on people and the minimum goods and services. And most third world countries function on the traditional economic system. And what we should be striving for is a mixed economic system, that involve the various and traditional and various consumer and central economy. So where you have the private sector is dominating the economy, whereas you have the government dominating the economy. In Liberia, the government is the highest employer in Liberia. So therefore, in a mixed system, you don't have the third world countries that mixed system where they have the private sector controls employment. You understand? So Liberia, that's what we need to be striving for, managing the resources that we have, that Dr. Brooklyn stated, and using sensible means through which that we can be able to distribute those resources so that we can be able to maximize what we have and then be able to trigger growth in our economies. The lavishing in Liberia is at a peak, and I thought this government was going to change it, and I hope the government will, but we need to definitely be able to focus on the value system that we have. First of all, the value system. What do we cherish? Who do we respect? What do we respect? What we expect for our citizens, how we expect our citizens to behave and conduct themselves, especially when it comes to the issue of nationalism and patriotism. So these things are very important. So the value system first must be put into place before we start putting in the economic system, the educational system, the health system, and other systems that are interlocking to be able to push our country forward. So that's my comment to add to what Dr. Brooklyn stated.
Thank you so much. Someone just sent a message through my phone stating that, and any one of you can chime in. They don't understand why their thought process was that when this new administration took over, they have sat down and analyzed the pros and cons, what worked in this government, in the past government, and what should be working here. Like, for instance, if the past government had They had a minister with 10 assigned security, 4 cars. Their thought process was that this government would have maybe, while in the electoral process, the campaigning and everything, they would have sat down to analyze and see what is working for, like what the past government did and what worked and what did not work. For instance, if the past government had a minister of finance or foreign affairs that had 5 cars and 10 security escorts, they should sit down and look at it, how much money that minister, just the minister alone, was spending. So when we are discussing, we hope that somebody also can chime into that. So is that something that the current government should be doing now, looking at looking at the past structure and see what was wrong, especially when we don't have the funding, whether they should reduce all these escorts and reduce all these number of cars that they're using with the meager resource they have, and cut down the benefit to a certain percentage, maybe at 45%, and look at the infrastructure. Is that something that the government should be doing? So that's one of the comments someone did. As we move to Dr. Caroline, who will also chime in. Okay.
I
So
don't see
while
that
we
on.
okay, so we'll just ask Ms. Jallo to chime in.
Yeah, thank you, Sis Lucy, for the opportunity. I want to agree with Dr. Brooklyn and Reverend Lloyd. All of your points are very, yeah, it's one of the essential step that need to be taken, because we have seen from one past government to another the issue of corruption, the issue of having more expenditure than, setting aside the most prioritized areas like our healthcare, our educational system, our agricultural system. These are key areas in how to empower the Liberian people privately, in the private sector, because this is one of the major area. If Liberia must develop, if Liberia must move past this stage, we must empower those in the private sector. We must open the private sector to be competitive, that other business people will come in, Liberians, especially Liberians who are entrepreneurs, will come in and try to invest in that. And that also gave way to the justice system, because without a security system in the country, nobody want to leave from the diaspora and come into a country that there is no security, there is no justice. If someone does something to you or something happened to your business, you cannot have justice, or you cannot have the system holding people accountable for their wrongs. So there are a whole lot of things that have not been working before. And now that we fought for a government that we think should have known better and should have used the past government as a case study in moving forward, in putting Liberia on the right path. But I think from what Mr. Bupla is saying, Dr. Bupla is saying, and he is in Liberia, it is unfortunate that this is still happening, because this is what we spoke about. Well, I supported the Unity Party because I felt that Liberia was at a crossroad, and there's no need of us standing on the fence anymore. Liberia come first, and it was time that the past government of President Weah leave, because his leadership was a detrimental to our country, and we needed him to leave. And this government was going to be the best to move our country forward. But seeing the government doing the same thing, that means they did not learn anything from the 6 years opposition. And it is so sad, but it's not too late, because it's too early. Once you realize some of these mistakes, as early as possible, you can make a difference. We cannot continue to do the same old things and we think that we can get a different result. It's not possible. We need justice and accountability. We need people who are given the opportunity to serve, to see their position in public sector as an opportunity to serve their country, to do what is right, an opportunity to turn those wrong into right, to clean some of the mess of our system, and not to see a government job as a place to enrich themselves and make themselves, you know, the Mr. Big stuff. No, we have passed that. And our president, our people who are leading us should know what they were placed there for. We don't have to remind you. We need Liberia need a system to work. Most especially, I am basing on the justice system because you can never know the mess up of our justice system, the brokenness of our justice system until you become a victim of the system. Then you know how messed up it is. Then you feel the pain of the ordinary people who have gone through the shackles and the brokenness of our justice system. So if the justice system cannot be fixed, if we cannot have a better security in Liberia, no one is going to come to invest in that country. Nobody is coming to bring business and try to transform our country. No, nobody want to be somewhere that it cannot be safe, that it will be hunted down at any time, killed at any time like one chicken. No. So if JMB is doing these same things that we spoke about for the past 6 years and we advocate about, then I don't know where are we going as a nation, whether we have learned or I really don't know.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jallo. I think you just hinted on what someone was talking about. And the question was, because and Dr. Brooklyn spoke and everyone spoke about modesty, and that's critical. So the question here is, and anyone can chime in what ways will the government avoid excess display of power and privilege and instead foster a culture of modesty within towards a citizen, especially when the government officials or even foreign businesses are interacting with the citizens? Because someone just stated that I think one time, one Lebanese businessman, very powerful, was stopped at a red light, and he did something. The certain thing he did was wrong. He shouldn't have. I don't know whether he was rushing and he mistakenly almost like hit someone. And when he was stopped, the police were just trying to do their job. And the next thing he did, he didn't want to even listen to the police. He just took his phone and he called, not this government, in the past government. And he just called, and someone called the police on the radio, something like that, and tell them, let him go. So not only the government official displaying power and not adhering to rules and regulation, not respecting other government officials, government employers, like especially when it comes to security. So, this question, I would like for you all to just chime in and see, so that at least the person that is asking the question or whoever is listening, and when we have Dr. Bobler, I pray, we're hoping that you have the opportunity to meet the president because he's trying to do that, so that these things, at least the president, for a good leader, you have to listen, not only for people who will just see the things the way you see things, but at least in another lens. Dr. Poplar, we're hoping that you have the opportunity to meet with the president, because Liberian View will also work towards and pull our strings that we have to make it work. So anyone can chime in, display of power and stuff like that.
Okay, let's quickly comment. I just want to state it that I have high confidence in President Boyka himself, because I worked with him previously when I was at the University of Liberia, and he was the chairman of the board of ISAC Liberia. And also I served as president of ISAC Liberia during that time. So I had a lot of interaction with President Boyka during that time. So I have confidence in his leadership and ability to shape the nation in the right direction. Although he just got into office and takes time to settle, But it's important that that Dr. Brooklyn said that he gave a listening ear to other Liberian professionals who were coming with very good advice to give him so that he would be able to draw out the public policy that is needed. So the judicial system, like Ms. Jalo stated, is broken, and that one system that needs to be revitalized if we have to build healthy systems in Liberia. And so therefore, the judicial system will enforce a value system that each and every Liberian will have to adhere to, so that the various systems that are in place will be able to function. Because if you don't have a good judicial system, you don't have law and order in the nation, nothing else can function effectively. And so I trust that the government will be able to put in a very efficient um, law and order system in Liberia, revitalize the entire system, train the law enforcement officers, and make sure that they find the finances to pay them, to give them the adequate salaries that is needed, that will deter them from corruption. Although corruption cannot be eradicated totally, but still it can reduce corruption to a level that will allow the nation to function with a high standard of law and order. So therefore, those who are expatriates, those who are foreign investors in Liberia, will be able to understand and respect the system, because they know that if there's any violation of the system, there will be repercussions. But if they have the sense that there will not be repercussions, they can just rely on the connection in government to validate the systems, then it will not help the nation as a whole. And those foreign investors, they will not even reinvest their profit in Liberia. They will take the profit overseas, and Liberia will not benefit from their presence in Liberia. So that one thing. So the law and order, or the power structure in Liberia that has been misused and abused, it has to start from the leader himself. He has to ensure that those who he appoint into government to work with him to ensure that the country achieve its goals and objectives, make sure that they also function on a law and order. That means arriving to work on time, making sure that the employees get to work on time, making sure that they are productive. All those things are very, very important. Where you have people in Liberia leave their office and come back after 3 hours for lunch. You have them not doing the job. When you approach them, they say, "Do you know who I am?" That's abuse of power. You understand? These things are happening in Liberia, and I hope this new government will come with a radical transformation that will ensure that people follow the law, and people become those who are called to be leaders, will be examples to the citizens, and so that the citizens will also be conscientized of their role as citizens who will be abiding citizens who will abide with law and order. You see, in this country, in the U.S., we are here. But when people leave from Liberia, when they come to other lands, they follow the law and order in this country. And the common thing that go into the store, you won't have to say anything to a Liberian, he will stand in line. But then he go travel to Liberia, he will not want to stay in line, because you know why? It's the environment that he finds himself in. People do not stay in line in Liberia, and in this nation, when you go in the store, the person will get there before you get served first. If you go there, there's a line, you get at the back of the line and wait for your turn. That's the kind of system, those are the kind of systems that we need in Liberia to put things into place. Those are the little things that we can start practicing, and therefore we can be able to exercise them on a higher level. And then in that light, that value system will spread over, and all the systems, the network of systems in Liberia begin to flourish. Health system, educational system, transportation system, all those systems are broken, and we need to fix them. But it has to start from the leader, enforcing that those who are appointed into government follow the rule of law. Very important.
Okay, thank you so much. We know, like Dr. Lloyd stated, when we were at the University of Liberia, President Walker was on our board of ISEC. ISEC is an association of students studying science and studying business and allied sciences, and he did extremely well. But this time around, he is the president working with ministers and other government sectors. And so, what he's going to put in place, or what the ministers and the different government employees are going to put in place to make sure that the framework and the structure that is set works. So the framework have to come from him. We are hoping that this discussion is solely looking at in the past and looking at what is happening now, even though the government just took over, but what is happening now. So at least people can know that and start talking about it. That's the purpose of this discussion. And then also to come up with a proposal. And we're hoping that other ministers, others are in the House and other branches of the government will listen to it and see how they can structure. And because if you're service oriented, you're providing services for your people if you're a senator, you're in the House, you're making sure that your county is healthy and have the things that they need. Meaning, if you have to cut down the number of cars you have, the number of employees that you have, we're looking at how the government can downsize so that Liberia can live. Because if not, Liberia will not live. So that's the purpose of this discussion. So having said that, I'm going to look in the chat to see we have other questions there, but we'll give the opportunity to our own Ms. Jallo. If you can chime in again, that'll be fine. Then I'll go back to the questions.
And another thing again, one of the panelists, I can't remember who spoke about, is the issue of transparency, accountability. And I think the issue of people everyone having escort, a minister having escort, the only way that can be stopped, or that can be brought to an end, is where the president can come in and make a decision and put a law that, no, this is unaccepted. This is going to cost the government too much of money, and we need to minimize that. And then put a law. Anyone who go against it, they bear the consequence. And that amount of money that is being used for a whole lot of security and escort can be diverted in the security sector to make the country safe for everyone. All this is happening because the country is not safe. So people feel that by getting a private security or bodyguard or an escort, they are protected. And it's not true, because, you are also not safe. And the issue of transparency, the issue of corruption is something that is very, very annoying. We just see it happening from one government to another. It cannot change. I hope this government is going to be different, because this is why you people came in to do. The issue of transparency, we must be transparent in everything we do. For example, all of those ministers from the president upward, just like Abraham Darius Dillon did, and I think other people did also in the House, when they declare their assets, they made it public. Make your assets public to the nation. That is transparency. And those former government official who just left the past government, we need this government to hold them accountable. Let them be audited. Let the Liberian people know what was done in those previous government. If there is any act of corruption, it must be made public and let people be accountable for what they did. That is one of the benchmark of leading Liberia forward. And it's also going to help to minimize the act of corruption in that country. When you start to hold people accountable, you start to punish people, send some people to jail, take those money or property, seize their assets, sell it, and then use that money to develop our country. You will see people will get into government offices. They will behave themselves. They will be satisfied and contented with what they receive, their salary, instead of looting our country. Until then, I think it's a hard way for us. But for me, I believe that it's too early yet to say anything, and I believe in Joseph Nima Bwaka. I know that he can lead our country to yeah, to a new dawn, to success. I think
Okay.
so.
Thank you so much. So the question stays, I don't think it was answered. In
Mm.
what ways, in what ways would the government avoid excess display of power and privilege by government officials? Because in the past, this
That's what
happened.
I said,
Yeah.
Emmanuel. See, I said the president needs to put a law that
Okay.
this should stop. And then not only a law, but also a consequence of those that will go against him. And one if one person go against him, his law that he have passed that no one should be seen with escort and so we have to minimize the expenditure and try to use it into something better. Whoever that go against that, they bear the consequence. They are penalized for that. That is the way it's going to be stopped. But if you do not put a law and say from today we stop this, from today no one is entitled to this, we use that to do this, anyone who go against this, this is what is going to happen. And when one person go against it, no matter who that person is, whether it can be your son, you the president's son, or your daughter-in-law or your family or whoever it is, they bear the full weight of the law. That is it.
So,
Okay. Thank
Lucy,
you. Yeah. Go ahead. Thank you so much.
If I may. So I agree with Ms. Jallo. Um, the president just need to get involved. But the president doesn't need any law. It doesn't require law. Look, um, the only persons who should ride around Liberia with escorts should be the president and the vice president because they are the head of the country and head of the executive branch. The chief justice because she is the head of the judicial branch, and the speaker because he's the head of the legislative branch of government. Nobody else in a country like ours that is struggling with high unemployment, with massive poverty all across the 15 counties. That's an absolute waste of taxpayers' money, and there is no law required. The president just said, just let the inspector general know, Mr. Coleman, starting next week, the only police cars that will be assigned would be those presidents, chief justice, speaker, vice president, and myself. Period. And the president says it's starting to happen. They need to do that. Let me just give you another example. So I'm going home. I live in Lower Magibi in Guyata. I'm going home. It's a traffic jam, and two young people get into a fight. Right? This happens now all the time, and people stand around. It's kind of like a movie. It's sad. The post-war climate here is challenging, and for about 10 minutes, they're fighting. They run around, then start throwing rocks, and nobody tries to intervene. Right? Going on about 15 minutes. And so I got frustrated. So I told the driver, stop, I'm gonna get a car. So I got in my car and started walking toward the scene with the idea that if I get there, maybe I can help, you know, rally the crowd to just to intervene and stop these two young Liberians hurting themselves. Well, before I could get there, one slammed the other in the head and busted his head, and he fell. And then they took his almost lifeless body, put it in the keke. So almost 20 plus minutes, no police officer, no police officer. I went to Grand Bassa. The police presence is so small, the second largest county. It's so small. So the point I'm trying to make is our resources are going the wrong place. Remember now, public safety is one of the government's most important responsibilities. It's directly tied to national security. People need a safe place to be able to be their best self and to be productive and help build a nation. So you got our police officers in places where they don't need to be, when they should be in community doing community policing, helping our places to be safe, but they're not there. So the president makes the call, this will stop, period. And the president doesn't make the call. And that's some of the things I want to share with the president. Some things we can do, and we should just do right away. Don't drag it out. This one doesn't require a big UN conference. Just do it. The president say we stop it. Okay, and we have a safer place with more police presence in the counties where people live at, so people can feel safe and want to do the things they want to do. I also want to drop this footnote. Um, you know, investment requires certain climate. And one of the things that happen in Liberia right now is inflationary tendencies are all over the place. In other words, prices are constantly high. Well, what causes price to go up? There's a thing called cost push inflation. In other words, if it costs me so much to get my thing to the market, okay, the business people are not Red Cross people. Reverend Lloyd can appreciate that because he was at the Red Cross and I went to work with him as a volunteer. Um, and they do incredible work. But business people are not Red Cross people, right? They're driven by profit. So if it costs them so much to get the goods from the port and to grease elbows and all that stuff, they pass that on to the public. Okay, so that's cost push inflation. So my costs push up prices. Well, when prices go up, people get poorer because your disposable income and your dollar value is less. But yes, the other thing that causes price to go up and challenges business investment is called speculative reason. So business people speculate, and yes, how it works in Liberia in particular. You see cars that are plying the roads. Almost half of them have no license plate. Ironically and sadly to me, including these escorts. You see people with lights and siren, and there's no license plate. It looked like a gangster movie. Well, from a business perspective, when I see that, it tells me this is a risky environment. You know how business people respond to risk? That's speculation. They say, this place, I know if I'll get my money. So I will try to make my money overnight. If I invest it, I won't get it back. So the thing that costs $2, I will sell it for $12. So when you beg me, then I will sell it for 10. But what it's doing is it is making poor people remain poor because now the value of our dollar is lower. So those are the things I want to explain to the president and to his economic team, because there's a direct relationship between all these non-productive things we're doing and the economic welfare of the Liberian people. A direct relationship.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, all this discussion, and we're hoping that Mr. Soko is on the call and he's listening, on Facebook and YouTube. He's going to share it. We're hoping that we all will share it. But let's see, I mean, let's discuss here. I mean, there are a lot of things that has been said, a lot of things that we are hoping and praying that it will be instituted, implemented in Liberia, and that the government will look at what was happening and what should not have happened and make Liberia a better place under his administration. What are some of the strategies that you think we can discuss here, and maybe will be presented later on to the president? What about community engagement? Because I know in the state where I work, there's community engagement when it comes to making rules and regulation. There should be, and I'm hopeful that there should. I'm hopeful and praying that the president will see the need to have community engagement, to listen to what the marketing woman or wheelbarrow boy thinks. What is really the challenges? For instance, when we are working with Coca-Cola for all my years in Liberia as sales manager, we went out to do reviews, met with marketing women, wheelbarrow boy association, and Yana boys and whatnot, to get their view in our businesses. Those who have like maybe a cooler, or they had a depot where they were selling Coca-Cola, because the price of the ice was so high, and we had the Lebanese association, Lebanese business people were hiking the price at that time. And so when we had that particular survey, we found out that there was a need for an ice plant, that Coca-Cola should build an ice plant in Liberia. And then why was because that we will use that to subsidize the cost of ice. Um, do we see that maybe the president can also do something like that to see the challenges of the marketing women, the wheelbarrow boys, the young adult or older adults in Liberia that have no job, to really engage them? What are the strategies do we want to suggest that this particular administration, not only the president, but like the commerce minister, like taxation, what is happening with the taxes? Are we collecting the taxes? Where are they going? Foreign affairs, are we really paying for the passport? What is happening to our passport? What is happening to other stuff that will generate income and bring integrity to Liberia? Maritime office, what is happening to our flags? Stuff like that. How can we suggest on this platform, and what the diaspora need? What are some of the professionals that we have in the diaspora that the president can tap into? What are some of the ways in which the president can engage the diaspora, they can engage, Liberian youth, and so that they can get a buy-in from this from Liberians, not just because I'm a partisan, but just from the people that they are serving. What are some of the suggestions that we can give from our platform, and maybe later on they can be presented? Because I think buy-in is very important. That's why America works. I'm not saying 100%, but it works because they listen to the citizen.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, for that. And you said a whole lot in your statement, but I would just address a few of the question and concerns that you posed there. You see, an economic system regulates the factors of production within an economy. And so it regulates the factor of production in the economy. And in order for an economy to strive, there must be the sense of safety, or must be the exercise of the rule of law for any system to strive. So the strategy first we can what we can admonish the government to do is to be able to find a revenue to institute a very effective law enforcement system in Liberia. That's the first thing needs to happen now. Law enforcement needs to be upgraded. Law enforcement, setting significant amount of the revenue of the country need to be placed, or the budget in law enforcement at this time, to make sure that the police department function as they should function. Also, make sure that when it comes to customs law and the arbitrary prices in Liberia be regulated, and so that the common people will not struggle to be able to earn the basic living, or to be able to afford the basic living that they need to have. But it's very important. But the next thing that's very important here also, when it comes to and having a very effective law enforcement system, the next thing for the government to do is to be able to find ways to build and manage domestic revenue. Domestic revenue, what the taxes that are given, the various income streams, local income streams that the government has. So how the government of Liberia can build the domestic revenue, and how to manage it effectively. Very important. Building is one thing, but managing is another thing. So therefore, Liberia now have very moderate when it comes to strength, a moderate domestic revenue base, moderate. But that can be used basically to be able to have the other systems of government function effectively. So that's very important. Also, the government have to focus on the import and export sector of the economy. Because Liberia now import more than they export. So therefore, most of the goods and services that are needed in Liberia, those goods and services are imported. And so therefore, they are imported at a cost. And so like Dr. Berger was saying that those who are investors, when they bring in this product, they import these products in Liberia, it incur a cost. So all of the various taxes and tariff that they have to incur, they have to add that on to the retail price to be able to earn the profit that they need to have. Business function for profit. So, but if they bring the goods in, they got to make their profit. And so, therefore, the common people in Liberia cannot afford some of the goods and services. So they linger in poverty because of that. Only those who probably have US dollar or have US dollar income can be able to afford most of these goods and services that come in Liberia. So what the government needs to do when it comes to the import sector, design policies that will relax the tariff or the taxes that are imposed on imported goods. Relax those taxes so that investors will be able to flow in more products in Liberia at a cheaper rate. And in that instance, they will be able to reduce their prices so it can become affordable to the common Liberians. So the government can trigger that affordability, the purchase affordability in Liberia. So the purchasing power in Liberia or within the Liberian people will increase once the Liberian government can reduce the taxes. And that is beneficial to the government because the government will say, okay, for example, if I reduce the import taxes or whatever is paid for goods that are imported, you'll be able to get more taxes out of the sales from the common citizens, and that revenue generating capacity will increase. It will be able to augment what you will lose from your import taxes. So that's common basic economics that can be applied, and so that you can have and the higher purchasing power within the sector, the purchasing sector of the economy, and then be able to influence or assist investors to bring in more goods. Also increase investors, because we who are in the United States, if someone want to invest or import things to Liberia, and when you see there's is a flexible and a relaxed and a system in Liberia where the taxes are not too high to get goods and services into Liberia, more people will be encouraged to have more goods and services going to Liberia, and the citizen benefit, the country benefit a lot. It boosts up domestic revenue, and then also once the domestic revenues can be managed effectively, you have a very smooth path towards a very vibrant economy. And also, these are simple steps. Given the fact that Liberia has a traditional economic system, this would be very easy. These little policies, right, would be very, very, very. It would trigger. I want to say it would trigger economic growth very rapidly in a very short period of time. So I think that the Burka government is thinking about these processes here. So try to relax the restrictions on imported goods. Relax the restriction on it a little bit, and you will see how it will transform the economy drastically. Very important. But we should start thinking about doing this here. Okay. So I will pause there and give the rest of my panelists some time to pour into this topic. So these are things that we can do.
Okay, Dr. Lloyd, what about the appropriations of these funds? Are they appropriating the funds in the right place after the collection? Don't you think the appropriation is the issue and the challenge?
Yeah, and that you're right on that, Manakia. Appropriation is key. The misappropriation is one of the basic problem and the barriers and these are the barriers that we are facing to a smooth functioning society and economy. Very important. And then this put a strain on government to be able to provide those goods and services or the basic services to the citizens. They put a strain on the government because of that. All right. So the misappropriation of funds put a strain on government. And I want to say this here. Look, Liberia belongs to all of us. And if we can have better roles, if we can manage the funds and appropriate well to have better roles, to have better healthcare system, to have better infrastructure, it benefits all of us, believe me. Because what happens is that I can leave here and go to Liberia, and I can be able to have a system and environment where I can strive. I won't have struggles trying because I have roles, good system, good health care system, good educational system, and that can be able to provide the basic needs that I need to be able to be a high functioning citizen. And therefore, it will cause me to be more productive as a citizen. And therefore, the government benefit from that, from the tax revenue I will be able to give government from the taxes I will pay, and from the businesses I will establish, from those who I will employ, and they also will pay tax to the government from their income. It's a lot. It's a huge benefit that the country can have. So appropriation of the funds, of the revenue, is very key. And one of the most important thing also we should consider is that not only appropriation, but having effective appropriation, appropriating it in an area that will trigger growth. For example, the revenue, one thing you notice in this country, they have very good roads that people can get from one point to another very easily. So goods and services can travel without any hindrance and to various locations. Very important, and that builds the economy very fast. So the government should be able to focus on what? Constructing very good roads. Take the money you have, construct roads. That's what you do. I live in the Ivory Coast right after the year before traveling back to Liberia and coming to the States. And what I noticed is that before they develop a specific area, they will first lay out the roads. They will build the roads. You won't see no houses there. They will build a road network first. And right after they do that, right away you see houses coming up in the area because people can get back and forth to various locations. So very important, good roads to get goods and services from one point to another. The next thing is that infrastructure. And make sure that the government invests in adequate infrastructure that will be able to support the systems that are needed to strive in Liberia. Without infrastructure, the system cannot function without infrastructure. So if the government invests money into these areas, right? Therefore, they will trigger the growth of the economy and increase the domestic revenue of the country. So it's very important how you invest or how you turn around these domestic revenue and appropriate them in the right area. It can trigger growth for the economy. So, but taking the revenue and buying 5 cars or buying a lot of gasoline to fuel these cars to escort one government official here and there, no, that's a misappropriation. So it's very important that we have to think have very effective economic policies in Liberia. It may be difficult at first when you have these very stringent economic policies at the early stage, but believe me, at the end of the day, it benefits the country. All right. I just think a quick story before I leave. It's a story that I told about President Tubman and Japan, right? Japan back in I think the 40s or the 30s banned the importation of rice into their country. President Tubman called that diabolical. He called that diabolical. But 10 years after that, Japan was producing rice and exporting rice. And that the exportation of rice brought what? Huge revenue to Japan. Liberia had the gross national product of Liberia and Japan. Liberia had a higher gross national product in Japan in the 40s and in the 50s. All right. But they appropriated their resources in adequate areas that trigger growth to the economy. And that's what we need to do in Liberia. Be very focused, be very strategic with the funds that we receive and the appropriation. And then the other part of the economy will automatically begin to grow because it will be interconnected support systems in the various economic sectors in the country that will begin to flourish. As they flourish, the other system will automatically flourish. So these are the common and basic strategic economic policies and plans that need to be put in place for rapid growth in Liberia. It's a small country. There's about 5 million people. It's not difficult to put a system in place that can put Liberia back on the map in no time.
Okay, thank you so much. I think why we're about to close because it's almost going to 6:30, even though we started late, but we're gonna stick to our 6:30 to close. So we're gonna look at someone was just talking like in the on my sending me messages regarding the intro of Dr. Brople, stating that we have not really Dr. Brople, I'm sure, have looked at the budget, and I don't know when I've not seen the budget for this new government, and but if you look at it and you see that almost about 60 something percent of our budget goes to benefits. And
68.9%.
Okay, 68.9% of our budget goes to benefits, right? And 20, that means 20 something percent goes to infrastructure. Why you are closing?
No, not just infrastructure. No, not infrastructure.
Infrastructure and what?
29% is spread out.
Okay, spread out.
Human capital investment infrastructure is spread out. Okay. That is way too small because infrastructure precedes serious growth and development, like Dr. Lloyd was intimating in his remarks earlier. Mm-hmm. When you have good road network, when you have electricity, when you have running water, all of those things, or the environment that's needed, create the environment for job creation, growth, and development.
Okay.
Roads facilitate movement, and movement brings about development.
Okay. The in your closing, can you please maybe just state here? We're hoping that uh, someone from maybe the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, Minister Grisby, and any other high official or someone that is connected to the president will be able to say, "Oh, we saw this on the Liberian View. They were discussing, and it's very important." The question here is: do you this platform think that the current government should critically look at the budget, because you can put all the framework, the standard in place, but if you maintain the same budget, that means you're still going to be in the same place. While you're closing, can you make a suggestion or anything else that you think that someone that is listening that will be close to the president's ear, or maybe Dr. Brople having the opportunity to talk to the president? Can we please state in our closing, what do we think the president should be looking at? Because they put the framework, we talk about value system, we talk about the foundational principles for a healthy system in Liberia, and we talk about the various concepts. What about the budget? Because if everything is put in place but the budget remain the same, what do we suggest on this platform? Not only the president, but those in the authority and leadership should be doing. So we'll start with Ms. Jallo. You can be the first. God, this is our closing now. Just
All
you can just
right.
someone's take away from this discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy. One of the things I've always say and continue to say is, yeah, the government should prioritize the private sector, empower your people so that they can be able to invest in the private sector, do business, do a lot of things. There are a lot of opportunity in the private sector. I have lived in the West for almost 6 to 7 years, and I'm, let's say, let me be honest, I'm sometimes jealous the way their system work for them, the way things is structured, and I always think, why not, why can't we be like this? A lot of Liberians are here, they see that we have the system work, they see how things go, everything is in order, people pay their taxes, the revenue collection in the country, all of those revenue public entities, this is where the corruption take place. You have companies, foreign companies, they have their businesses. You're talking about from Lebanese businesses, you talk about airlines, you talk about mining companies. These are people who pay revenue tax to the country, but they don't. You got one person over there just taking 500,000 or so and put it in their pocket. These are that taxes that can develop the country. You can put into our budget and try to have, you know the amount, distribute equally, prioritize the educational sector, prioritize the health, prioritize like ministry like public works to do the construction of roads, because we cannot, even if you want to say, okay, we go into the agricultural sector, you need to have a good road to connect those farmers to bring their goods to a certain point to take it out. Liberia is a very, very, rich when it comes to agriculture. Our soil is very rich. We have a lot of fruit. We have a lot of vegetable. Look at our maritime sector, our fisheries. We have a lot of fishes in our water that some other countries do not have. These are places that the government can generate money from. When you invest into the agricultural sector, you try to make those local farmers, your people, you empower them to be able to be self-sufficient, to be able to produce, and that can encourage investors to come in. They build factories, Instead of building the factories out, they come in the country and build factory and start to manufacture juice and something like that. We got a lot of lovely fruits, lovely food in that country that can be manufactured right there. Sometimes I go in the supermarket there, I see some of these Benesi that the people fix and make it like Kenny, the Grampy, and so on. I say, but we get it in the country. Even in Liberia, you can just take and put your sugar on and do it. Why we can do this? Why we can, you know? So the government, they need to prioritize the agricultural sector. They need to prioritize the private sector where people, Liberians, can be empowered. Our local business people, they can be empowered. Banks can give them money so that they can make their businesses become entrepreneurs. Try to be serious that everybody cannot just push to the public sector, the government, because this is where money is. No, we have a lot of things. Open the business, the private sector, in a sense that it cannot be monopolized. Only one person do a certain business. No, let it be competitive. Somebody can choose from varieties of companies and not only one person. So this government have a lot of tax on their shoulder, and the first way they can go about that is by accountability and transparency. They
Okay.
must hold people accountable, start to audit, check and balance,
Mm-hmm.
start to set example. Those who are stealing our country money, especially from the revenue side, they collect revenue, they don't put it in the cover of the country, and sometimes they don't even collect it. They go and take it and put it in their personal account and use it for their personal use. No. And then the government need to revisit the budget, put money where it's more important. Our educational sector,
Okay.
our health sector, the roads, infrastructure. We need 24-hour around the light current for our people. We need good health facility. No investor will come into Liberia and invest when there's no security, there's no health, there's no this. No, we have to make our country better. And I want to encourage every Liberians outside. Another man, a Sierra Leonean or Ghanaian or a European or American will not come and build Liberia. We Liberians will have to build our country. So
Okay.
no matter how the system is broken, we must come there and tell our government this is what you need to do in order to make us to come back home and invest in our country.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Jallo. We hope that you just stay on while we close so that everyone can summarize and
Thank
provide a takeaway. If I'm listening to this particular discourse, what should I take away? If I'm the president, if I'm a minister, if I'm listening, well, what should I take away from the discussion? So we'll go to our own Reverend Dr. J. Edwin Lloyd.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Ms. Jado, well said. I just want to quickly state here that, and add to what you stated, that the government need to incentivize the agro industry in Liberia. It's very important. That is a very good potential, high income generating area for Liberia. It can boost the export sector and also be able to boost the economy. And so therefore, Liberia should be able to give incentive to local farmers so that they will grow and be able to produce. Also, the various agricultural products in Liberia, the finished product of those agricultural products can be diversified in a way where that they can also boost the export sector. So the Commerce Ministry need to be going out, seeing what are those products that we have in Liberia that are on high demand on the world market. And then when you notice that those products are in high demand, you'll come back in and make sure you have a mass production of those products and be able to go out now and find buyers, permanent buyers for those products. And then therefore that would be a very constant flow of revenue for the country. These are the very basic and strategic things that we need to do. Also, in closing, I want to say the government need to prioritize most of the services in Liberia, give it to private Liberian businesses to be able to run and provide some of these services, like cleaning of the streets, they're being providing education, You have Dr. Brookler there, who has the Impact Institute, that empower folks with knowledge and give them knowledge to be able to develop businesses and develop the communities and so forth like that. These are institutions that already exist, and government can come in and help to finance them so that they will be able to provide those services on behalf of government, so that these the various like the Impact Institute can expand our services in the 9 counties on a very high level. So these are the things the government need to do. The government cannot do everything, but the government can be more strategic in and allocating the resources into the sector that will be able to fuel growth, and development. So one thing in Liberia we need is private sector development, like
Yeah.
Ms. Dado stated. They need to pour money into the private sector,
Mm-hmm.
and privatize these services through the private sector, and that would trickle growth in the economy. And last thing I want to say is that we who in the diaspora, we may be talking, but we should not only talk. What we need to do, that Madam Kia said, come up with a comprehensive proposal,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at all the various aspects of government, various systems of government, the flaws in the system, and make a recommendation to the Liberian government to do a comprehensive proposal and present it to the Liberian government. That will help them. They will have something written that they can refer to, and readily to be able to bring group and have them accountable for these things. So that when the next election comes, if they do not do these things, then they will not have any support from the diaspora. So the diaspora has the power to effect change in Liberia. Instead of just talking, we can try to start taking action. Put a proposal together and send it over to President Boyka and say, this is what we think can help you build Liberia. And this is our part in helping you build Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's exactly what Liberian View is going to be doing. And we are hoping that, like you rightly stated, Dr. Reverend Brookler is the CEO for the Impact Institute. And, instead of you looking for a Ghanaian or Nigerian or some foreign national to come and train and reinforce some professionalism within an institution or even the government, let's use our Liberian professionals, those who have that knowledge. They have developed their businesses in Liberia. Respect Liberians, because at the end of the day, any foreigner would take the money and take it to their country, but it will not help to build Liberia. But so we're praying, we're hoping that, and we know that Dr. Boaka, our president, knows this. He knows it very well. I'm hoping that those that surround him will look at Liberian businesses, invest in Liberian businesses, respect Liberian businesses, so that when they send a proposal, we are urging Liberians in the diaspora and in Liberia, like the Impact Institute, when they send a proposal, they want to see the president. We're hoping that those around the president cannot push them away because they may not have the same money to give to you. Let's respect our own people so that we can build Liberia. I'll turn it over to Dr. Brookler for his closing remarks. I just wanted to say that because I think it was necessary.
Thank you, Madam Host, and thanks to my um, fellow panelists for your wisdom and insight. The responsibility of preparing a budget is the executive branch. It's with the executive branch of government, meaning the president and his budget office. The responsibility of passing the budget is that of the legislative branch. It's budget preparation, budget formulation time now for this new government. I would appeal to the president and his team to fight that first big fight on behalf of the Liberian people and insist that the budget shows a shift of resources to education, to public safety, to healthcare, and also that a lot of the resources will go into beginning the process of privatization. For example, the single biggest economic impactor right now in Liberia is privatizing LEC. If you privatize LEC, you will create jobs exponentially all across the country. Government revenue will quadruple, and LEC will become the largest taxpayer in the country overnight. Right now, the two largest taxpayers in Liberia are Lone Star and Orange. You notice they are both private company, private sector expansion works. So I would pray that the president will roll up his sleeve and start that first big fight and tell the lawmakers cut down some of these benefits. That's the fight they need to fight because he was elected by us, the people. Fight for the people so some of the resources can trickle down so that there will be job creation because more money comes to the lower echelon of society. Instead of just stamping the same budget like the one that the CDC had the last government, well, 70% of our resources are just for benefits. So that's what I think needs to happen right now with the budget formulation season. And if the president can stand up and fight that fight, he will become, for now, the people's president. Because let me tell you, the people here, we may not have the best public schools, but we ain't stupid. Everybody understand job. Everybody understand I can pay my daughter's school fee. Everybody understand those things. So when the resources are shifting where they need to go, so that people at the lower echelons can find jobs and find scholarship for their children, those things, people will begin to see immediately that things are getting better. And that will mobilize more people to participate in the economy, and the whole country works better. But if we do what we've been doing, we'll get what we've been getting. And I hope not.
Okay. We just want to take this time to say thank you to our viewers, our supporters, and thank you to our panelists. And these panelists, they are the team and members of the Liberian View. We want to take this time to say thank you. We hope this discuss have reawakening your thought process when it comes to the fundamental principles to make sure that to develop a system to ensure that Liberia stays healthy. And we've talked about the value systems, and we're hoping that next time on maybe the 17th of March and the 31st, we're hoping to bring up some of our government officials that will be able to give you their perspective from where they sit and what they see, and you have the opportunity to ask them questions. For now, till the 17th and the 31st of March, we want to say thank you, and then we see you again. Thank you all for your patience, and thank you, my team. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the show, Lucy. Thank you so much. That was good.
I'll call you.
Okay.